There is an art and a science to great proposals, but this is what is possible when you actually understand it. Immediate sign off for you as a speaker, large projects for you as a speaker with little to no clarifying questions, large projects for you as a consultant or coach with little to no clarifying questions. This is the big one. Positioning yourself well means no resistance to paying your deposit, even at 50%, even on tens of thousands of dollars. We've got so many case studies where this has happened. It's insane. And it's all because we shape a good proposal. In this episode, we're going to be unpacking the 7 speaker sales mistakes. Now, this has come about because of the frequency of questions I get asked, which is all about how do I get better sales? Why aren't I converting? Why do I not get the work that I want? And yes, it's good that you want to be paid to speak. And yes, it's good that you want to make money through speaking. But I feel as though some of the things that are being overlooked are so fundamental to actually converting your sales at a much healthier rate that I just felt it necessary to come in and have a conversation with all of you about some of the common mistakes that I see made. This is not all of them. This is just the most frequent, and what you can quickly do to adapt and actually overcome them and turn that into a bit of an advantage, because the majority of the people who you are competing with in the marketplace are also making these mistakes. So if you can get your head around how to not make these mistakes and turn them into a really good point of difference in what you do, then I can almost guarantee you that your conversions and your sales are going to be a lot healthier. So mistake number 1 is you're actually speaking to bypass sales. And this is a bit of a confronting one. It may seem a little bit harsh, but here's the thing. A lot of people, particularly coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs and experts, are actually looking to speak because they don't like selling, right? They believe that if they get the bigger stages, they get the right audiences, and they also get some paid stages in amongst it, that all of their problems around sales are going to disappear, that they'll have more leads, they'll have more interest, they'll have more revenue. And that is true, except if you haven't learned to sell. All that happens is that the sales process becomes faster. So if you're actually speaking because you actually think it's going, or want to speak because you think it means you're going to be able to bypass sales, then you actually need to think again. Because the first irony is you are going to have to sell yourself to get the stages, even the free stages. In actual point of fact, some of the free stages are harder for you to get than some of the paid stages. So that's the absolute irony of this. And all of that additional interest and leads, you're going to have to be able to still convert or sell all that extra interest and the leads that you generate into your business. So you can't bypass sales at all. You actually have to build the skills. Then if that's you, the rest of this podcast should be considered essential listening. And to be very honest, even if it's not you, even if you don't think it's you, you should still listen to the rest of this podcast episode. So mistake number 2 is the content marketing crutch. And this has become something that I've been observing for years now. I've not been able to articulate it well until recently. And it was only in working very closely with the women in one of our programs that it really crystallized for me. And I want to share this with you because this is a mistake we're making in the social digital media marketing zeitgeist that we all live in now, in this world that we live in, the atmosphere, the environment we're living in. And that is that we've actually smooshed content and marketing together. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, to do this, I'm going to actually rewind you by about 30 years. I kid you not, probably closer to 25, but 25 to 30 years ago. I actually did a stint in radio sales advertising in regional Queensland, Australia, back when we actually in regional Queensland only had AM radio, but we were the dominant radio station. Now, I enjoyed a lot of success in that period of time, and this is why. There were 2 types of campaigns that we sold to our clients. One was brand or awareness campaigns, and one was call to action campaigns. So the brand and awareness campaigns actually ran all the time. They were what we call drip fed. And that was simply to be noticed and to be heard and for the awareness of your brand to raise. Absolutely adding value, absolutely, landing in the hearts and minds of the audience. But they were about brand, right? So there might be stories, there might be jingles, but they were about brand awareness. And the reason that had to run all the time in the background was then when you ran a call to action campaign, an actual marketing campaign, then you knew that you were going to generate leads because the heavy lifting had already been done by your brand awareness. Now, that is actually what content and marketing is now, except we've combined them. And we think that content marketing is actually marketing, but it's not. What we're doing is we're producing content and we're forgetting to do the actual marketing. And this is also why sales agencies and marketing agencies and content agencies are getting away with not delivering tangible return on investment. When I was taught advertising and sales and marketing, I was taught that every dollar you spend on advertising should have a return on investment of at least $10 per dollar. Now, there are a lot of coaches and consultants and speakers out there who are established who know exactly how to track that. But for those of you who are emerging, we're getting caught in this content marketing swirl where we believe that because we're producing content, we're actually doing marketing activity, and that's not true. Marketing content is the brand awareness of old, and marketing is where you generate a lead that should result in a conversation and hopefully a sale, right? So marketing is a specific call to action. Now, it may not be call to action as in buy my thing, but there is an engagement that happens that starts a process that generates a lead that leads to a conversation that leads to a sale. That is marketing. The rest is content. Stop combining the two and actually look at what you're doing as separate functions. That's mistake number 2. And that's why we're getting so exhausted, because we're actually just producing lots of content, thinking that it's content marketing and not understanding why our revenue is not climbing. So your marketing strategy should be different to your content strategy, but you do need both. So that part of the smush together is correct because you do need both. So that's mistake number 2, the content marketing crutch. Mistake number 3 is pitching the C-suite. Now, I get asked all the time, particularly when it comes to LinkedIn strategies and direct outreach. So we're reaching out to people to connect with them, to bring them into our network. When should I pitch? And for a lot of you, you're actually going for C-suite or for executive leadership because that's where the decision makers. Great move. But what I want you to say is don't ask when you should pitch them. You shouldn't be pitching them, especially like, do I get them on a call on the 3rd pitch? On the 3rd email, do I get them on a call on the 5th message? Like, there is no right time to get C-suite on the call if you're driving it and you don't know them, right? So don't pitch them. Get them into your orbit. Create great content. Be referred to them by someone. But if you are intent on getting connected and being able to create a relationship or contact point with them, then this is what I recommend. Do use your laptop, your desktop for connection requests because you're able to put a note. Have a very deliberate scripted note that goes into that connection request so they can see why you're reaching out. Don't talk about you want to sell your thing. Why you're reaching out should be all about network, connection, common interests, things like that. We have a really great script that we use for our clients, which is all about the second level connections, but that's obviously available within our programs. So deliberate connection note. Then the next message, once they accept, is a thank you for connecting and also starting to create reciprocity. Even though they more than likely won't, just offer that if there's anything you can ever do for them, including just an introduction to somebody within your LinkedIn network, please do let them know. That's it, no sell. Then a targeted post that you share into the messaging chat. So one of your posts or articles that you know will be of interest for them, you actually provide the link and just frame it with, I'd love to get to know you a little bit better and to kick that process off. I just thought I'd share with you something that I wrote recently that I believe will resonate with what's going on in your world. Would love to know what you think. That way, if they happen to click on that, they will see your content, they'll engage with it, and your content will start to show up for them. Even better, before you reach out and connect, find one of their posts or articles that really aligns to your work, comment and engage on it, and then start the connection process. The other comment that I've had is I keep getting pushed back to the gatekeeper. I've got to get past the gatekeeper. I've got to get past the gatekeeper. Why don't you just make friends with the gatekeeper? That is actually one of the oldest strategies on the planet. If you can't get past the gatekeeper, make friends with the gatekeeper. Also remembering that in many organizations, the gatekeeper, quite often the executive assistant or personal assistant to somebody in a leadership role, may well be the person who's hiring the speakers for the next event. So stop being so obsessed with getting to the decision maker that you actually burn the relationship sitting below that decision maker. Wherever those influence points sit, build those relationships and connections. Mistake number 4 is plain text response. And what I mean by this is you're responding in the body of the email. And this is obviously when an opportunity is presented, when you've been asked for some information, when you've been asked to just send through a pricing or send through a quote, right? Don't quote and propose ever in the body of an email. In actual point of fact, when people are just doing the RFI, a request for information, still don't send this just in the body of an email. It's unprofessional. Recently, in the last week, we had one of our private clients actually wasn't picking up or wasn't converting as much work as she wanted to. And what I worked out was, number 1, she was quoting for the work in the body of the email. And the quoting for the work in the body of an email, this is for multi 5-figure programs. right? And projects and contracts. Now, why she hadn't picked up on it was because when she uses that methodology to somebody who already knows her, who she's already worked with, that's all she needs to do. But if you're actually going for the first, second, or third, and actually in my world, every piece of work, you should be creating a proposal document no matter how well you know them, right? Because you cannot sell a high-ticket offer, as I mentioned, in this case, a multi-five-figure consulting deal in a quick email. Then on the speaking side, one of our clients in America actually had someone ask him to shoot some quick information outlining 3 key bits that they wanted to make a decision to bring him onto the speaker program. So it's just like, hey, we've got this event coming up. I think you'd be great for it. Can you just send me these 3 quick bits of information? Now, before working with me, his inclination, actual point of fact, his inclination even at that point was just to shoot a quick response on email. This is actually a request for information. This is actually for an event. That person reaching out to you may well know you or have heard you or seen you, but they're probably going to have to actually present you to other people. So even though they were familiar to him and he knew them, the flick back of an email is not an appropriate response. What we did do was I jumped in and customized a copy of his speaker one sheet to deliver the information they wanted because it's already professionally produced. His testimonials are clear. It clearly positions him and it links to his speaker reel. It's all embedded in the document. We just updated the takeaway section to be targeted to that event and their request and tweaked his positioning just a little. The rest of the information was covered as if a covering letter for proposal, and that was what was used in the email with an embedded link in 3 points through to the updated speaker sheet. That is how you do it. That is how you look professional. Why does this even matter though? Was because structured information delivered professionally with a firm follow-up process in place actually positions you well, clarifies and crystallizes the information, but it's also done in a way that your contact can share more easily. Remember, a lot of decisions to engage you for speaking, consulting, or coaching will be made by more than one person. And you need to make your contact's job easier for the people around them to make the decision to buy you. That's all this is about, is how do you make the decision to buy you easier? Mistake number 5 is going too early. This happens all the time with speaking, consulting, and coaching. What I hear all the time is that they're getting ghosted, that there's no follow-up, that they're following through and they're not getting anything. But the number one reason you're actually getting ghosted is actually at least mostly your fault. And I know that's harsh, but here's the truth. You're going too early. Whether you're coding for speaking, consulting, or coaching, you don't have enough information to actually make a detailed and compelling proposal or offer. You haven't actually identified what their buying drivers. Now, as soon as I hear someone say that they don't know what to include or need to include all the options, all the possibilities, I know they haven't spoken to the client or prospect enough, and that they don't have all the information to make a clear, compelling, concise proposal or offer. This also means you haven't positioned yourself as the strongest option for that engagement. Because if you don't have all the information, you haven't had enough conversation to understand exactly what it is that they're looking for and why you fit the bill, why you are the option. Now, especially early in our business life, we actually make the mistake of believing interest is a sure thing, and that costs us dearly. So that's mistake number 5, we go too early, which leads us straight into mistake number 6, which is bad proposals. There is an art and a science to great proposals, but this is what is possible when you actually understand it. Immediate sign-off for you as a speaker, large projects for you as a speaker with little to no clarifying questions, large projects for you as a consultant or coach with little to no clarifying questions. This is the big one. Positioning yourself well means no resistance to paying your deposit, even at 50%, even on tens of thousands of dollars. We've got so many case studies where this has happened. It's insane. And it's all because we shape a good proposal. Now, the first thing is that you actually need a proposal document, a thoughtfully considered, well laid out document, which is graphically, well, these days, Canva designed. It's just essential. If this is a positioning document, this is part of getting people to a yes faster. You may still get people to a yes in your own way, but this will get them to a yes faster. It will also get them to a no faster because you're so clearly positioned and you're so calling them out on what they say they want that if they don't really want that, they're actually going to let you know because you've come across as a professional and they will respect that. So that document, it needs to be templated. Once you know the structure and flow of a great proposal document, you can template 80% of it. It also needs to be separate to an agreement. This is not the agreement. That is a separate document. The proposal leads to the agreement. They are not one and the same. And it needs to start with the client, the challenge, the solution, the approach, and the proof. The about you parts are the last parts to go in. The mistake I see, and this is the most frequent, one recently was a 15-page proposal document, and the first 9 pages were about them, the track record, how good they are, how much they love what they do. And here's the brutal truth. The clients don't give a rip about that. Nothing. They don't care about it. They don't care about any of it. None. Can I say that again? They don't care about any of it. You come last in the document. You actually come after the investment, okay? You need to outline the challenge, the solution, the approach, the proof, the social proof, right? What other people say, not what you say. Then the investment, and then it's about you. If you can get that flow right, you will see a change. We also need to, in the design, make it visually chunked. And that's a whole other detail and a whole other program, a whole other conversation, but you need to make sure it's easy to scan, right? So that's mistake number 6. You're making bad proposals. You're creating bad proposals and you're putting the wrong information first. Then mistake number 7 is no control of the process. The amount of times I start working with someone privately and they tell me they've got a 6-figure pipeline, and when I look at the detail, they don't. Proposals are old. Proposals have been in the zeitgeist for a long time. There's long pipelines. There's lots of ghosting, right? So you're trying to follow up and you're actually not getting anywhere with it. You may actually even be talking to them every time, but there's no decision being made. And that's the sales equivalent of being ghosted. There's a resistance from you to the follow-up, right? Now, one of the things that I learned from growing up in a farming community with little to no other communications, we had phone, reception and engage and availability only 3 or 4 hours a day, was every time we came together, we had to actually determine when we were catching up again, no matter what it was, whether it was social, whether it was professional, whether it was business, whether it was farming, whether it was community, it didn't matter what it was. When you came together, you actually had to set the next point of contact. And that's what we don't do in the sales process. We leave it in the hands of our prospects. And that's the wrong thing to do. You need to pre-position the follow-up. For those of you who feel awkward about it, just say, hey, here's the document. I'll be in touch within 72 hours or 7 days or whatever it might be. I'll give you a call on X date. Pre-position your follow-up. Take control of the follow-up. If that time is not going to work for them, guess what? They let you know and you set it in a time that suits them. Pre-position your follow-up. Always just go for the next step. So for example, with that proposal document that you've now improved with what you just learned in mistake number 6, you can actually close it with, we see this as just the start of a conversation. We understand a lot of things will come into play in your final decisions and invite you to peruse this document, making notes of any questions or anything that you think requires further clarification. I'll give you a call within the next 7 days to run through those with you. You're not trying to close it in one call. This one single call close concept that came up years ago, I hate with a passion, especially when it comes to those of us who are experts, right? So always just aim for the next step. And as I said, pre-position the follow-up, give yourself permission. But the ultimate control of any process, of any sales process, of any marketing follow-through is to get on the phone. It's rare these days. Get out from the email, get out from behind your screen and get on the phone. We had this conversation recently in a group session in one of our programs, and one of the women walked out of that, sorry, I should say disconnected from being online, but she went from that session and she made a decision that she was going to get on the phone. I reminded her what was important. She made a decision to stop sending emails and SMSs and actually get on the phone. So instead of messaging, she just called people. And out of 5 calls to event producers, she's a speaker, she got through to 3 and has 2 potential opportunities now being explored. The ultimate control is getting on the phone. The ultimate control is person-to-person contact. The ultimate control is actually all in your hands. And if you understand these 7 mistakes, there are a lot more, but if you understand these 7 mistakes, then I know that you are not going to be guilty of continuing to make one of these mistakes that speakers make when it comes to sales. There are a lot more, and we are going to cover them off at different podcasts and different conversations as we move through this series. But for today, please take these on board and let me know the improvement and the difference it makes.